It's midnight on a moving bus, and you are the only person on board actually breathing. Everyone else is locked in a rigid, terrifying stillness. The glowing amber display above the driver doesn't list a street name or a neighborhood. It shows only 2 words: last stop. This sequence of events began on a cold October night in 2017, on a lonely stretch of highway that locals avoid after dark. 17-year-old Ryan was waiting at a rusted bench. There were no houses, no shops, and no passing cars, just the sound of wind moving through the trees. His phone was at 3% battery, and the signal had completely vanished, leaving him with no way to call for a ride or check his location. Total geographic isolation, combined with the sudden failure of modern technology, created the exact conditions required for a specific kind of predator to emerge. The first anomaly appeared as an elderly woman in a long gray coat. She didn't walk up to the stop. She was simply there, sitting at the far end of the bench. She sat with a physical rigidity that felt wrong. Her chest didn't move, and her eyes remained fixed on a point in the fog, hidden beneath the brim of a wide hat. When a middle-aged man arrived carrying a worn leather bag, he didn't sit down. He took one look at the woman and began to tremble. He whispered a warning to Ryan, claiming he had seen this exact woman at this exact stop on this same night every year. As headlights cut through the fog, the man didn't wait for the doors to open. He turned and fled across the empty highway, disappearing into the trees on the opposite side. When a local resident chooses the darkness of the woods over the arrival of a scheduled bus, the nature of the situation changes. The presence on the bench and the approaching vehicle are no longer separate events. They are a single, closing circle. As Ryan reached the first step, the driver's hand clamped onto his wrist. His face was bloodless, an expression of pure, frantic desperation. He urged Ryan to look at the people already inside before committing to the ride. Despite the warning, Ryan saw a warm interior and a way home. He pulled his arm free and stepped inside. The doors locked with a heavy, mechanical finality. Walking down the aisle, Ryan realized he had stepped into a collection of different eras. One seat held a young soldier, his uniform caked in dried mud from a conflict that ended 70 years ago. Nearby sat a woman with hollowed eyes, clutching an old-fashioned baby blanket that appeared to be empty. Every passenger sat in the same unblinking, paralyzed state. As the bus accelerated, no one moved to adjust their position, and no one looked toward the new arrival. While standard time moves linearly, this vehicle operates on a closed circle that branched off into an isolated dimension. Crossing the threshold meant leaving the physical world behind. Ryan was now part of a self-sustaining loop, entirely outside the normal timeline. The bus immediately began to test him. The driver whispered a single defense: "Do not answer if someone calls your name." Almost immediately, the voices of Ryan's parents echoed from the dark rear of the bus. They sounded perfect, calling out to him with a terrifying familiarity. When he didn't respond, the voices shifted. His best friend began calling from the shadows, using intimate details to try and break Ryan's concentration. The bus eventually stopped. On the left is the bus stop where Ryan boarded. On the right is the version he saw through the window. A rotting, shattered replica of the same architecture, standing in a town that appeared to have been dead for a century. The woman in the gray coat stood and exited. She stopped on the cracked pavement, turned back and smiled, gesturing for Ryan to follow her into the ruins. The mimicry of his parents and a facade of a familiar town are designed to break a victim's resolve. For the loop to claim a living soul, that person must be convinced to step into the dark voluntarily. As the doors closed, the driver explained that he had driven this route for 32 years. He told Ryan that his presence on the bus was an impossibility. This bus exists for those who never made it home. Every passenger in the seats died while waiting for or trying to catch the last bus of the night. Row by row, the stiff, pale figures began to move. They turned their heads in a slow, synchronized motion, fixing empty eyes directly on Ryan. Outside, the road and buildings vanished, replaced by an endless void of black fog. The bus reached the end of its line. a place where reality simply stops existing. Ryan was a systemic error, a living being caught in a machine built for the dead. The driver, realizing the mistake, opened the doors and ordered him to leap into the darkness before the loop could reset. Ryan jumped. He hit the ground and felt a jarring shock of cold air. He opened his eyes to find himself back on the rusted bench at the original highway stop. Look at the timing of the event. Despite the length of his ordeal, this diagram shows that only a single minute had passed in the physical world. There is a temporal gap between 11:59 and 12:01 that cannot be accounted for. The middle-aged stranger was still there, watching from across the road. He explained that he had been waiting at this stop for 20 years, hoping to see his brother return from the ride he took 2 decades ago. Travelers still report the midnight arrival of a bus with a blank destination screen. It remains a permanent fixture of the highway, a doorway for those who mistake it for a ride home, leading to a place where time finally stops.